So hi everyone, hope you're doing really well. Welcome to this episode where we're going to be walking you through the activity related to buying a buy-to-let property. Now, if you haven't seen the previous two episodes, it might be worth going back and having a quick look at those. In the first one, we looked about the 6 key buying principles or our buying criteria. And in the last episode, we talked about the 9 key result areas, how we took the whole objective and divided it into 9 steps, which meant we can manage and measure the progress. In this episode, we're going to talk about the activity exactly relating to buying, right from a property not even being on our radar, right through it being completed and generating a monthly profit. So on the far left-hand side then, online leads. What we're going to find is you're going to be on the portals, and I've talked about using various online resources as well as talking to estate agents in the past. But we have what we have. I print out what I call a PI sheet, a property information sheet, and that allows me to capture information essentially in 3 parts. 1, about the condition of the property, 2, about the situation of the vendor, and 3, any information relating to the estate agent, the estate agency, or anything that's happening in the wider investment area. It's basically a sheet for me to capture that information. I'm also going to have an access to my phone and a diary. And what I do is I call up and say, hi, I've just seen this property on Rightmove, number 6 King Street. And I say, can I book a viewing, please? And just before I do, can I take this information down? And that information I write down goes straight onto my property information sheet. So, for instance, you don't know the number of the property until you make a phone call and call up. You don't know who might be meeting at the property until you make that booking. So you want to take some information down there and then on the phone call, and then just put it into the diary. Then when that day comes and that time comes, you want to go out and to do your viewing, and you really look at these 3 things: the property's condition, the situation of the vendor, and also the estate agent. Not only the vendor, but not only the estate agent you're speaking to, but also the estate agency, and also the wider investment area. So you're starting to capture information as you walk around and do your property inspection. Take photographs. I might do a whole episode on how to take photographs later on, or at least how we do it. And then remember to say your thank yous. It sounds pretty, so obvious, but it's a really important step. Then you're going to come home, and that day or the following day or at some point in the future, you're then going to do your analysis. And what you're going to do is you're going to set up, we use Google Drive, or Google Workspace, I think it's called now. Set up a new folder, upload the photographs that you have taken, and including, put here, handwritten notes. One of the things we do take a picture of is that property information sheet, both sides of it, take a picture and also upload that onto Google Drive at the same time. You can come back and see it digitally if you haven't got your paper copy to hand. Then you're going to be looking at your comparables in the area, and I've done episodes on that. You also then want to do your analysis in terms of your financial analysis on the spreadsheet, and I've done an episode on how we do that. And then you want to arrive at a purchase price. How much are you willing to pay for this property? And then handwritten notes. In certain circumstances, we do actually post notes off to vendors. So in very certain circumstances, you'll be extremely cautious not to irritate estate agents. But sometimes we do send off notes. Then once your analysis is, the time has then come to pick up the phone and submit your offer. And not only submit your pick up the phone, but also put it in an email and put it in letter format. Hence we put here, submit your offer ×3. And in your offer, you're going to do 2 things. This is what we do. We justify why we've arrived at our value, at our offer price, and also we suggest why we might be a good fit in terms of good buyers for their vendor. And this all comes from the careful listening to this vendor situation and the estate agent rapport building on the viewing. And then on here, I've also put in resubmissions, because you see in the previous episode, we talked about what happens if a property doesn't go from offer to purchase, but you still like it. Well, at some point, you should resubmit on those properties. So whatever time frame, make it consistent, somewhere between 1 week and 3 months. Let's say it's going to be once a month. You call up and say, hi, how's it going with number 6 Kings Road? And then you can resubmit your offer. Remember, a property isn't sold until it is sold. So sold, subject to contract or under offer is fine. You can still make a phone call, so long as it's not every single day, but regularly make a phone call and just show your interest in that property still. Now, while you're moving along these key result areas from number 1 to 4, you're also working on key result areas 5 and 6. But this, what we're going to draw your attention to here is this information at the top, because this is all about the finance relating to the purchase. And one way of looking at this in sort of very broad terms is these key result areas are all to do with the property and the people associated with that process, that side of it. And up here, this is all to do with the money, the finance that you're going to put into the property to purchase and renovate it. So you need property and money. You might have heard that. This is that in diagram form. So while you're working from 1 to 4, at the same time, you're going to be working from right to left to drop this money either into the purchase, stage 5, or drop it into the refurbishment stage, stage 6, or, of course, possibly both. So private capital is going to start with basically telling people where you are. You might use that social media, networking. We have a website as well. The most powerful way that we have found is networking. And I put here networking. People often think, networking do's and lots of people, and you go around and chat for 30 seconds to lots and lots of people. I also include in that the much more informal, just tell people what you do. Be very clear. Don't try and pitch people. Just say, look, we're in property. We borrow funds to renovate family homes, and we let them out to family tenants. We create homes for families. And so you're working at elevator pitch, which also we might do a separate episode on at some point. Tell people where you are and get people interested in talking to you about property and finance. And at some point, you're going to have a few people that will come through that process who'd like to talk to you a bit more, and they'll say something like, should we have a coffee? Now, I haven't been in business for a huge amount of time. My background's all in teaching, of course, so the idea of having a coffee was just go to the staff room and have a coffee and have a chat and a biscuit. This takes on a different meaning when you're in business. Having a coffee is, they would like to talk a bit more about your business. They're going to sort of interrogate you politely and find out if you are who you say you are and you do what you say you do. Share your objectives and also share your vision. So your vision is like the long term, looking to the future, 10, 20, 30 years into the future, and then your stepping stones, your plan to how you intend to achieve that. So your vision and your plan. I do take a loan agreement, although I rarely get it out unless I'm asked for it. But if you're asked for it, so how secure is my money? That sort of question. Then you want to have something to say, well, actually, you've got a series of legal documents here, one of which is a loan agreement, but legal documents. And then also take with you your brag file. And I don't really like the word brag file, but I haven't got a better term. And this is what we refer to it. So let me explain that a little bit. A brag file is essentially your track record of activity that you have done up until this point. So for us, it might be, well, we've done a number of refurbishments. We've bought these houses and this is what it looks like. Here are some before and after photos. Here's our track record of paying people back on time. This is the evidence of what we have done. Now, you might be watching this thinking, well, I haven't even purchased my own property yet, let alone a buy-to-let, or I haven't even got any property and I'd like to buy my first buy-to-let. How can I show anything in my brag file? Well, excuse me, my voice is getting funny. What we used to do is we would go on our viewings and we'd take, for these meetings, we'd take copies of these following documents. Take a copy of my property information sheet. I'll take a copy of the information pack that the estate agent gives you when you go into the property. They often give you a paper, folded out or stapled piece of paper about the property with photographs and information and the measurements. Property information sheet, the pack from the estate agents. I print out a copy of my analysis from my spreadsheet, and also I would take evidence of us having submitted an offer. An email, print out an email or the pack. And those 4 documents stapled together, and I would take several of them, 3, 4, 5 of them maybe, and say, well, I haven't purchased anything. However, the objective is to try and purchase something that looks a bit like this. And, you can tell them the story. So I went and I found 1 King Street and I viewed it, and here are some of the pictures we took. Here's the information I recorded. And then when I did analysis, here's a copy of that. And then later on we put a submission on and we offered, whatever, £100,000. But we didn't manage to get it, weren't successful on that occasion. So take a number of them. Even though you haven't purchased something, you can still show that you are doing what you say you're trying to achieve. You are taking activity. And if you go back to my previous episode, a long time ago now, where I talked about working with private investors, we said there are really 3 principles to bear in mind. The first one, you have to be visible, then you have to be credible, and then you have to be generous. And this is all in this same diagram. This is visibility. Then the brag file and this aspect, talking about your business, is credible. And then with the loan agreement, you're going to offer them a generous return that they are looking for, that they benefit as much as you. So visible, credible, and generous. And so as you're working along 1 to 4 horizontally from left to right, you're also working on stages 5 and 6, but from right to left. And then you arrive at this purchase stage. And when you get an offer accepted, you're going to inform your solicitor, you're going to inform your broker, you're going to arrange a survey, you're going to inform your build team, you want to get some buildings insurance, you want to do a final site visit or several site visits, you're going to do visits with your building team, and also do a visit just at the end before completion. And then also once it is, it's absolutely over the line, not just sold, subject to contract, you're going to put this property into what we call a portfolio tracker, where all of our properties are listed, because once a month you want to go back your entire portfolio and do an analysis on that. And if you remember in the previous episode, I talk about you don't go back to stage 1 and view, and you don't do the offer again, you don't purchase a property again, but you do some form of analysis. This is where the basis of this analysis is right here. Then you move on to the refurbishment stage. You're going to take photographs before and after and in progress. You want a very clear schedule of work. You want Gantt charts. You want regular photographs. You want to give your updates to your investor at whatever agreed time, typically once a month, or phone calls, or whatever. Keep them updated. Then you want to get in touch with the lettings agent at some point and say, we've got a property that's coming close to finishing. Would you like to come and see it? You want to get cleaners in, and you want to get the snagging stage done. Then you want to stage. So staging, not snagging. Stage it. There's an episode right at the beginning on staging. Take some photographs, and they can be for your long-term records. Then you want to work with the lettings agent and get your final paperwork done. All your final paperwork from the build stage, and paperwork related to the start of the lettings agreement. And then it moves over to the tenants moving in. They have photographs. This is more related to the estate agent side of work, but this is some key principles to think about. You want a very clear inventory. You want to have a very clear AST with terms that read this really, really carefully, and you want to make sure it moves on from an AST to a CPT, contractual periodic tenancy. That's a note for us to make sure that happens. And then we keep updating the portfolio tracker once someone moves in. Then it's long-term management. Photographs happen over a period of time. Inventories, they should come back to you. Check if there's any change of the AST, or they want to renew, whatever happens. Then you want ongoing management. You're going to keep very careful review on what happens and how much money gets spent and how much money the estate agent is keeping. Check regular rental increases. We've talked about episode on that before. And then keep an eye on this portfolio tracker. This keeps coming up, as you can see. Keep an eye on the whole portfolio together. At some point it's going to come to refinance. Again, you want to have photographs. You want to have evidence you've got an AST. You want to go through the refinancing process. There's quite a few things related to that, but you didn't actually happen to work with a mortgage broker. And then ongoing management, and then the portfolio tracker. And that's the entire process. And as we said before, it just then cycles back to stage 6 once in a blue moon. But over a period of time, this will, I don't know, once every 2, 3, 5 years, you're going to keep refinancing as the capital appreciation, as the asset continues to goes up, appreciates. So that is our key activity. And then the next episode, we're going to be looking at time frames and time horizons. So hope you found that interesting. If you did, please just give us a thumbs up. Some feedback is really appreciated. Thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you for your support as always. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one.